All right, welcome to the program Talk Sport on Global Television. Time for us to look at all the big stories that are making the rounds from the local scene, talking about the Nigerian Premier Professional Football League to the English Premier League, boxing and all the sporting events that made the rounds over the weekend. An exciting weekend when we had one of the biggest derbies in world football, talking about the Manchester derby, where the red side took on the blue side of Manchester, and the result is as clear as night and day. It was a 3-1 spanking of the Red Devils. All right, let's make welcome a man who is technically making his debut on today's edition of the program Talk Sport. His name Mazino Dixon Amagada. Yes, Amagada, right? I got that right.
Absolutely right.
Okay, I almost thought I was stuttering there, but yes, he's making his debut on today's edition of the program Talk Sport. Nice to have you in the studios.
My pleasure.
All right, let's begin from the home front. Let's look at weekday, I think 22 now,
Yes.
match day 22 in the Nigerian Premier League. How before we get to the result of matches that were played over the weekend, how would you describe the NPFL this season, the 2023-2024, 24-25 season?
It's been really fantastic to watch. We've seen a vast improvement in terms of technical play of teams, the tactical setup, and even the quality of goals. If you are opportune to watch playback of or reviews of matches played, you see some goals and you wonder, like, wow, you mean we can score this kind of goals in Nigeria? You also see that by and large the stadia where teams play, there's a vast improvement on the playing surface, and people can now watch the match online and on television. You have on Star Times and other mediums. So yeah, so definitely there is an uptick in terms of the quality of our play. Teams now understand the importance of visibility. Most teams are now very active on social media, and there's a growing culture where we're finally bringing back that culture of football. But if you ask me, I would say in terms of followership and real support, it's more in the northern part of the country. You need to go to Kano, go to Katsina, Jos. You see fans really coming out. The other day, there was a Northwest derby between Katsina United and Kano Pillars, and the stadium was filled to capacity. We saw video clips of the match, and definitely we are making progress, steady progress.
Okay, let's look at you're talking about supporters and stadiums being filled to the brim. One of the issues has always been the state of the pitches, the security of fans when they come with their families, and also officiating, which is very key. How do you look at these three factors in terms of the 2024-2025 season thus far?
Yes, in terms of the facilities, the stadium being used, we've seen a vast improvement. There were some pitches that were, like shut down by the league authorities, the one at Owerri, and that's for Heartland of Owerri. They were forced to move away from there. We've seen Akwa United going back from Eket Township Stadium to Uyo again. Of course, Eket is very good, but that was like a temporary home for them because of the continental matches there. We've seen Rangers that were playing in Oka. They've gone back to the cathedral at Enugu, and you can see it has really reflected in the cathedral is going so well. There's Sani Abacha Stadium, the
Ramban Stadium in
Jos. I mean, when you watch it on TV, it's something you really want to look at again and again. So definitely, in terms of officiating, there have been the complaints have reduced drastically. The Nigerian football officials have improved. The refereeing has improved tremendously, and the issue of crowd incidents, hooliganism, has also declined because the authorities have been good in dishing out punishment to teams whose supporters take laws into their hands. They pay massive fines, sometimes they play behind closed doors. So gradually, that is now having a direct impact on our league, and it can only get better.
All right, now that we know that our league is getting much better, let's talk about the result that played out over the weekend. We saw big matches. I hope my producer will be able to give us a take of the matches. We saw Kwara United's game against Rivers was put forward again like last weekend due to the fact that Rivers were in continental duty against Dream FC of Ghana. For you, let's look at Rivers United. against Dreams FC of Ghana. A very important match for them to move to the next stage. How would you describe that victory? Hard-fought, narrow escape, or was it forced into glory? Would you say it was?
You know what made it?
Describe that.
What made it?
Rivers United victory.
What made it really interesting was that, of course, they did not play the match in Port Harcourt. It was played in Uyo. We saw hundreds of fans from Port Harcourt going to Uyo, and even for the first time, Uyo fans actually trying to cheer up Rivers United. When they were goal down, they had to fight back, and they got those late minute goals, especially the last one by Eyi Naya, 100th minute of the game, as in like that was the last kick of the match, and the celebrations of something that you always want to see. But what even surprised me most, Anthony, is that at the end of the game, both the Dream Stars and Rivers United, they came together to celebrate because they realized that they had both qualified for the knockout stage. So they came together and just took over the pitch. It was really beautiful to see. Very
beautiful to see. All right, yes. Let's see the result of the matches that were played in the league. Remo Stars are beaten by us 1-0. We've got Lobby Stars hitting Casino United by 2-0, while Heartland of Owerri could only manage a draw with the Sunshine Stars of Akure. Then Niger Tornadoes, they lost at home to the Flying Antelopes, talking about Rangers Internationals, 2-0. Then we've got Plateau United whipping Bend Insurance of Benin 2-0, and also that's for the matches that were played on Saturday. For you, let's look at the result in terms of Remo Stars beating Bayelsa United 1-0. How important was that victory for Remo, who were at the top of the summit of the MPFL?
It was very, very important because they had slipped, not because it's their fault, but because they have some outstanding matches. And for Bayelsa, this is their first defeat in 5 matches. They've been winning and drawing since they sold their top striker, Mizo. It's like his departure suddenly opened up the team. And if you want the highlight of that game, it was a very balanced encounter. Yes, the match was played at Remo's home in Ikene, but Bayelsa gave a good account of themselves. And the goal that was scored by Remo Stars from the left, fantastic goal. And that put them temporarily at the top on Saturday before Lobby Stars, that has continued to defy predictions, came and won their match on Sunday against Katsina United, that had earlier beaten Kano Pillars in the Northwest Derby 3-2. So very interesting. Then Plateau United, they are gradually turning their stadium into a slaughterhouse.
They won 10 matches in that Rampan Stadium before this particular one.
Yes, and remember, they had gone away to Heartland and won 5-1. So that's 2 wins on the bounce, and that takes them. It means Plateau United are really, really looking good for continental showing, because they are able to give good account of themselves away, and they've made their home in no-go area. And so therefore, I wouldn't be surprised if they finish among the top, or even if they top the league at the end of the day. For Benin Insurance, my home team, well, I don't know what has happened to them. They've suddenly lost their stride. Yeah. That defensive discipline that was the hallmark of Benin Insurance last season, and at some point it has gone, because they've lost 2 key players. They've lost Tamara, they've lost Imade, they've sold them, and I don't think they replaced them, so it's affecting them now.
So does that show that probably they are not a good side? Because a good team, you should have a solid bench. If Insurance, the fact that they were in the continent, shouldn't they have done better?
We would have expected that with the departure of those key players, they would have reinforced, but we've not really seen that, or they've not really gelled. And I also think Coach Monde Odigie needs to change his tactics. He's too defensive, almost like the way Pesero set up the Super Eagles for the Nations Cup. So Insurance, they need to be adventurous, they need to go for goals, and they need to find that solidity that made them a strong team. If not, they are likely going to miss out. They are not in danger of relegation, but the continent, they might be a tall order for them.
All right, let's look at matches that will be played. We've got the fixtures at MPFL. We know that Doma United, who is not doing so terribly, will be facing Sporting Lagos, while Kano Pillars will try Abia Warriors for size. We've got Aqua United, we host the Elephants of Aba Eyimba. Then on Tuesday, it's going to be Gombe United against Upsutin 3SC. Yes, that's going to be an interesting matchup. Let's look at the fixtures. Doma United and Sporting Lagos. Do you see Doma running away with the victory there, especially when they're at home?
Well, Doma United, they were a house on fire at the beginning of the season.
Yeah,
Well, it looks like it looks like their engine oil has run out a bit, so they need to do a bit of servicing. But you know, these are two teams. Sporting Lagos, they are new to like Doma United, it's like an NNL derby. They are coming from the lower rank. So Doma have it all to play. They play fantastic football. They have some of the most colorful supporters, and they are very, very active. They have an active media presence, very active. Most of their supporters are between the ages of 18 and 21, and they are very vocal. They know the game so well. They love their team. They have a good goalkeeper. And their coach, Onigbinde, has done so well. So this is the opportunity for them to try and come back into the mix. So I see a win. A win is very likely. Although it's narrow, but I think they will definitely win.
All right, when we look at Kano Pillars, a traditional team against Abia Warriors, who is a very stubborn side. Very. They're good with the ball on their feet. How do you see that derby? Are you likely to see a shocker or probably a draw coming out between Kano Pillars and Abia Warriors?
I see it as a straight win for my Sugida because, look,
the distance in the league position.
And you know, there's something about Kano Pillars this season that is very interesting. When they play at home and the makeup of the team, you have Rabiu Ali,
who is still there,
who is like the father of MPFL now, and a young Umar, a young striker that scored 5 goals against Gombe United, and in fact, he's being sought after by many European club sides. So definitely, with the vociferous and tenacious support of Kano fans, I see Kano Pillars going for a straight win because Abia Warriors they are stubborn, but I don't think their stubbornness can work in Kano this time.
Okay, let's look at Akwa United taking on Eyimba, kind of neighbors. But should we see Eyimba at least get a result against Akwa United?
Now, Akwa United, I don't know what has happened to them this season. It has been
bad. They are good teams.
They used to be. But you see, this is what happens when you have a team, you win the league title, and you sell all your players, almost all. That can destroy the rhythm. Remember, when Eyimba won the Champions League about 20 years ago and retained it afterwards, they maintained a team for like 3 years before they now started phasing them out. But Akwa United, as soon as they won the Premier League in 2021, they just let everybody go and they have never recovered. Yes, they have a fine stadium and all that, but they have not found their rhythm. And Eyimba is just a stone throw from Aba to Uyo is not so far. And I think Eyimba are on a high.
They're playing at home also.
It's a home because they are used to that stadium since it's the Nest of Champions. So definitely it can go to Eyimba. I see Eyimba picking at worst a win. No, at most a win, at worst a draw.
All right, Gombe United will be taking up Shooting tomorrow on Tuesday. How do you see that playing out? Shooting Stars being a traditional team, shouldn't they be able to grind out a result from Gombe United?
Yes, they were able to get a result from Jos last week.
Which was very surprising.
Very surprising. Then they also beat Insurance with the last-minute goal. So gradually, Shooting Stars are getting back. Remember when they started the season, they were doing so well, getting good results away, winning at home confidently, sometimes coming from behind. Then along the line, they lost it. But it looks like they finally found that rhythm again. And Gombe is tottering. Gombe is not exactly in its right element, although they would want to go for a win to survive. But I think Shooting Stars, with the experience, they can get a result. So it could be a Gombe win or a draw.
All right, let's quickly look at the standings, the MPFL standings. We've got Lobby Stars on top of the summit. Yes, the summit of the MPFL is, we've got Lobby Stars with 42 points. And second on the log is Plateau United, following closely by 41 points. Rangers, the Flying Antelopes, are third on the log with 40 points. And we've got 2 teams on 39 points, talking about Remo Stars and Eyimba Faba, who will be in action, also being on 39 points. Let's look at the close margin between the first 4 teams. What does this tell us as regards how keenly this season's championship is going to be?
Very, very competitive. We've seen that the gap between even the top and the middle is not that much. So among the top teams, it has been a ding-dong affair. 1 week, it's Eyimba at the top. The next week, Remo comes, then from nowhere, Lobby Stars shows up again. Then it goes back and forth,
But with Rangers coming into the mix, we've got Rangers, we've got Eyimba, And also, Canopilla is not too far away from, these are traditional teams that know how to win the title.
Yeah.
Seeing Eyimba, Canopilas, Rangers, do you think they will be able to outmuscle teams like Remo Stars? Because I think Plateau United and Lobby Stars, these are still traditional teams.
Of course,
already.
of course.
So I think we have just two newcomers there, so to say. So between these 5 teams or 6 teams, who do you think has the magic wand to stay longer there and, probably...
From the looks of things, I think Rangers seem to be doing something right. Guess what? The last match they played against Niger Tornadoes, their general manager made his league debut on the pitch, right? So, and they won away 2-0, even though the match was played in Kaduna, and they got AfriFest to invest in the team. You only need to go and see what is being done at the Nest of Champions. I mean, the Cathedral. They are really, really serious this season. They've gotten it right in terms of sponsorship. They've gotten it right in terms of structure, because the general manager, before he assumed office, he had gone to Europe for serious training and exposure, and it's showing on the pitch. And of course with Coach Iluchukwu, fantastic, one of the best young coaches we have in this country. He has brought that Midas touch that he had when he was coaching MFM to Rangers. And of course Rangers is the only Nigerian team that has never been relegated. So they are one of the powerhouses of Nigerian football. And going back to the Nest of Champions, I don't know, I'm so sorry. But going back to Cathedral, I don't know why Nest of Champions, I keep saying it, but they keep going back. Now that they're back in Enugu, their game has even gone higher, because they make
the supporters are also trooping
in, and they hold, before they play any match, the coach and the team, they have press conferences live that people join in on Facebook and other mediums. So they are really trying to build a culture as the traditional team of Nigeria, and it's showing on the pitch. And if they continue like this, I think Rangers can nick it. Lobby Stars has been very consistent. They've shown uncommon tenacity to last the distance. Many people thought it was just going to be a flash in the pan, but no, it's obvious. We've gone past the midpoint of the season, and Lobby Stars, they are still there. Plateau United, wow, fantastic. They've turned just into a no-go area, no grief for anybody. So and
that will be useful for them if they get to the continent.
Absolutely. I just pray, this is my prayer. Plateau United is a team dear to my heart. I pray that they are able to keep the stadium to the point that they would not, if they qualify for the continent, they will not be forced to go and play maybe in Abuja or somewhere else. And because once that happens, they lose the advantage. So I would implore the Plateau State government to try and ensure that everything needed to ensure that the Jos Stadium is continental worthy is done, so that when they qualify, because I see them definitely making it to the continent. It could be the Champions League, it could be the Confederations Cup, either through the FA Cup or through the league. But as it is, they are continent bound from the looks of it. So they have to get that stadium right, so that that atmosphere, that ambience, that advantage, and all that makes Jos what it is now plays in their favor.
All right, let's quickly look at the national team coaches issue, as the NFF has made it open for who wants to be the coach of the Super Eagles. Let's look at that before we go to the foreign scene. We will be talking about the Super Eagles. Let's look at, now that Pizarro is obviously gone. A lot of people have said Finidi George, who has been part of the team, who has played for on international level, played in Spain with big teams, played in Holland with Ajax and co. Emmanuel Amunike also had done well with Tanzania, played for Barcelona, big teams. They should be considered to anchor for the Super Eagles. But before we get into that, I think we'll go for a very quick break. In case you just joined us, this is Talk Sport on Global Television. I have Dixon Amagada, who is making his debut on today's program. We'll be talking about the Super Eagles and all the big stories on the foreign scene, talking about the Manchester Derby, Anthony Joshua, Formula One, and other issues after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching Talk Sport. It's now time for us to look at the Super Eagles team seeking for a new gaffer to take charge of the team as Jose Peseiro has departed Nigeria after taking Nigeria to the finals of the 34th edition of the African Cup of Nations, where we lost, I don't know if it's gallantly, I would say, to the Elephants of Cote d'Ivoire, a very painful defeat. Let's see Peseiro. Are you one of those in support of Peseiro staying on as the gaffer of the Super Eagles, or you think it's good riddance to him leaving and for a chance for people like Emmanuel Amunike or Finidi George to take reins of the Super Eagles?
Well, for me, I was one of the biggest critics of Peseiro when the
qualifiers.
When we call, especially after the qualifiers. I can understand the qualifiers is it's give and take. But after we qualified and the Nations Cup was around the corner, I didn't like the way the team was set up, especially the composition of invitations. You have almost 10 defenders, you have 4 midfielders, you have like almost another 10 strikers or thereabouts. I mean, there was a clear imbalance. And when we went to AFCON, it showed. We were simply defending for our lives, packing the bus. We had no creativity in the midfield. Iwobi, that has been foisted as the playmaker for Nigeria, was asked to play further back, and that basically made our attack toothless, and it forced Osimhen to be dragging and doing, but, I mean, he didn't get the support he needed. Yes, we got to the final, but the truth is, was that a pretty type of football play? Absolutely not. And would that have worked if Nigeria now went to the World Cup qualifiers? No. The fact is, if we went with that Peseiro's arrangement, we will all sit here and watch the World Cup 2026 at home, because we will not be able to win games. Because the way Peseiro structured his teams was simply to just soak up pressure, even against low opposition, just soak up pressure and get maybe 1 goal and that's it. And for me, I didn't like it. Am I happy he left? For me, this is what I feel. It is better he's gone. Why? He has reached the final of the African Cup of Nations. The deal was for him to reach the semi-finals. He exceeded it by 1. It's better to leave when the ovation is loudest. Because if he stayed and the team did not go beyond the group stage for the World Cup qualifiers, that would basically destroy him permanently. So for me, I think it's better he left and let another coach come. But the question is, who will now take over the Super Eagles? Some have mentioned Emmanuel Amunike because of his experience playing in Spain, having coached the Under-17 World Cup team to victory with the same Victor Osimhen and Samuel Chukwueze. They've also mentioned George Finidi, who won the league title with Eyimba last season, and his team is not doing badly. These are good names. The question is, will the NFF give them the go-ahead to lead the team? I don't think so.
With the experience we've seen several times where local coaches, we saw the big boss, Stephen Okechukwu-Keshi, winning for Nigeria in 2013. We've seen several, like Charles Bellumi of Ochira winning for Ochira as a local coach. We've seen the Egyptian coaches do it time and time again. We saw the Ivorian coach, where they sacked their French coach, and the Ivorian coach took them to the finals and won it. Shouldn't that be enough motivation for the NF to believe in the ability of Nigerian coaches? I
agree 100%. There's no saying that a Nigerian coach cannot do the job. What is required is the support. The Ivorian coach originally played for France. If I was born and bred in France, he played for the Under-17 team that beat Nigeria in the 2001 Under-17 World Cup finals. Then when the window to change nationality came, he changed to Ivory Coast. The Algerian coach too, was a Frenchman, actually was born in France. But he now saw the opportunity to come back and serve France, serve Algeria, and it paid off. We have Nigerians that have played at the highest levels, like Emmanuel Munike, Finidi George. Okay, Siasia is suspension is still it will end in August, so he's out of the running. But I wouldn't have minded a consortium of coaches. You bring Siasia, Finidi, Emmanuel Munike, whoever you make the head, it doesn't matter. They're all teammates. They come together, and you bring maybe a defensive coach from the NPFL like Monday Odigie to bring solidity. I think that's not a bad idea because we don't have much time. The next match, competitive match is in June against Bafana of South Africa in Uyo. We have to win that game. Remember, we've not won any game for the World Cup qualifiers. We've played 2 draws against Lesotho and Zimbabwe. So we are far behind. And at this point in time, why do I want a Nigerian coach? I want a Nigerian coach that is forward-looking. I want a Nigerian coach that will bring the Nigerian flair, our traditional football. Even not wing play, but controlling the midfield. Not this one that will sit back and we're fighting for our lives, soaking up pressure. That is so un-Nigerian. The luck is that the players played for Pissarro. They listened to him. And a large number of them were born in Europe. So they understand that European discipline, which is not bad. The only thing missing in this team now is a playmaker. And I've made it clear that there are many Nigerians that can play the number 10. I don't agree that Iwobi is the only playmaker we have. I mean, for me, it's an insult when after Austin J.J. Okocha and to some extent Mikel, we've not found the replacement there. Until you get someone that can dictate play to the midfield, or possibly let Iwobi go further forward. If indeed is well, he stays behind with Onyeka, fine. So
Al-Hassan, has he not done well?
Al-Hassan too, yes. Al-Hassan, because he has the energy. He's very, very young. So no problem. You can put Al-Hassan there. Then because he makes short passes, right? Yeah. Al-Hassan has speed and he can run. So they can interchange. Then Onyeka sits down there, or with whoever. But I think Onyeka has almost made that DM position his own because he has been fantastic. So that's all that is needed. If you notice, Anthony, when Nigeria scored the second goal against Cameroon, that was the only time Iwobi ventured forward. He ventured forward and interchanged with Haruna, and we got the goal. So it shows that his strength is playing closer to the attack, not as a playmaker. He doesn't have the long-range passing skill of Pirlo or Zidane. He doesn't have it. He's a short passing player. Take him forward if that's what is needed. So a Nigerian coach would know this. He would know this. Will keep the defense as it is, or bring in introductions when necessary. And definitely we can start by beating South Africa and winning our matches and qualifying for the World Cup. So yes, I want a Nigerian.
All right, let's move on to the foreign scene. Let's look at what played out. It's Manchester United versus Man City. And obviously, did we expect anything less then?
I did.
Would you say Manchester United did well until they considered that third goal? Was there need to consider if you had held them to a 2-1, almost wrapping up the game? Obvious, the gap of defense.
See, there's no comparison. The truth is, Man U of today is not Man U of the Ferguson era. They don't have the players, they don't have the personnel, they don't have the mentality of United. Personally, I don't like Manchester United. I'm a Liverpool fan, so I don't like them. But I must admit that right now, they are lacking in that mentality. Look at Liverpool now.
Even with the coach?
Even with the coach. Now, they've changed, had about 5 or 6 coaches after Ferguson. It's still not working. Something is fundamentally wrong. You know, when Cristiano Ronaldo raised the alarm, we were all like, why would you say that kind of thing about an institution like Manchester United? But it's clear, something is fundamentally wrong. And if what I'm hearing this morning is true, Man U fans might cry because I'm hearing a certain Potter is being considered as a replacement.
But they had mentioned the Zinedine Zidane.
The problem is Zidane wants to coach France. He's ready to wait till Didier Deschamps runs out his contract. I know Zidane is a one-tunnel person. He's not someone you can easily sway. His mind is dead set on...
Is France the best option for Zidane just on the sidelines?
Well, you can understand.
Is it because he's scared to rubbish the achievement he made with Real Madrid? That's why he's been careful.
I think part of it is a cultural reason. You know, France, they have issues France is supposed to be a multicultural, multi-ethnic society. Even from the composition of their team, people who say they should even compete at AFCON because they have mostly African players. But if you've been following issues in France of late, many issues on immigration, integration. Yes. So I think.
Why would he also want to?
I think
to coach them even when, because remember when he had that issue, that head-brought issue after the World Cup, there were a lot of things to say, go back to Algeria where you came from and all that.
He wants to prove a point. I think he wants to prove a point. He wants to serve as a symbol of what France ought to be, assimilation, that everybody should be, is a Frenchman, irrespective of where you come from. You're a French person, you're a Frenchman, you're a French woman. So he wants to, and he also reinforce, because if you notice, anytime they're having elections and the far right in France, they mention this of migration, Zidane is one of the voices that always comes out to speak. So I think, apart from the fact that it's a sure bet for him to get to glory, there is also a cultural reason for that. He wants to prove a point, and that's why he's not considering Juventus, he's not considering Manchester United, he has not considered Chelsea, he has not considered, of course he can't consider Barcelona for obvious reasons, but for him, France, being the coach of Le Bleu, is the ultimate. So I don't see him going to Manchester United, but with what I'm hearing, Ratcliffe having ownership rights and a say, he is an Englishman. He wants to maintain that British aspect of Manchester United. And that's why when the name Potter popped up this morning, I laughed. I know many Man U fans will not want to hear that.
Is he a total failure? Can we say Potter actually failed in Chelsea because he wasn't good, or because the time wasn't right, or the quality of players he had also?
It's a mix. The time wasn't right. The jump up from Brighton was too steep. Remember when Coach Moyes left Everton for Manchester United? He couldn't really, not because he was a bad coach, but it just didn't pan out well. But look at him in West Ham. He has gotten UEFA Conference League title, at least, you know. So for Potter, he's not a bad coach. In fact, if you asked me, I would say either Potter or Howe were in line to be one of those considered to succeed Southgate as coach of England, because they are modern coaches. But I think that jump was too quick. There's something about the Man U environment that we are not privy to see from the outside that is causing problems. One of the things Ronaldo mentioned, sorry I've said this, he did mention that the younger players in Manchester United are not ready to listen. They are not ready to be mentored. There is an arrogance or an entitlement mentality that many of them exude. And you can see Ten Hag has been having that trouble too with some of the players. Look at Sancho. They've been having a go at each other before Sancho had to be pushed back to Dortmund. So it's an issue. It's a cultural issue. Remember something, Anthony. The present generation of footballers that are coming up are not like those of the era of Maldini, Zidane, who eventually made it, but they went through the ranks and had a culture. The young ones are, I'm sorry to use the word, entitled, opinionated, one-tunneled, and lack a lot of emotional intelligence. So when a coach talks to them, they tend to like rebuff, and that's what's happening in Manchester United. They need to clear that toxic air that is there, because whoever comes now and takes over, the same thing is likely going to happen.
All right, let's go quickly and look at other stories. Let's talk about Luis Enrique talking to Kylian Mbappe, saying if Kylian Mbappe did leave, the Paris Saint-Germain will be a better team. And recently he has been dropped for some matches. Do you think that's the right step by Paris Saint-Germain? And do you agree with Luis Enrique that if Mbappe left, things were going to be better for the Parisian club?
You see, PSG, they want to do a Man City. They want to make they've already won all the trophies that matters in France. The problem now is they want to win the Champions League, and somehow it's not happening. That's why they brought Neymar, they brought Messi, they brought all sorts of players, Ibrahimovic. Till date, no. The same thing I would say. There is, it's a bit of has to do with luck. They've just been unlucky. Mbappe, he has a very fiery mentality. He's very confrontational, and Luis Enrique is one individual that has had issues with players with egos. He's a typical Spaniard, especially from the Catalan region, where they don't tolerate people that tend to be arrogant. It puts them off. Pep Guardiola, you see his teams, most of his players, they don't have that ego. He wants you, once he sees you have ego, he doesn't get on. Ibrahimovic, Toure,
Laporta had to even leave recently.
Exactly. So it's going to be tough because I don't know who they want to bring in. Of course, over the weekend, Osimhen was mentioned. But of course, Osimhen would not want to go back to France. Having played with Lille before, he will want to go to...
he's going to a bigger team.
Which is?
Paris Saint-Germain.
Paris Saint-Germain is a big team, but it's still in France. So what will he be doing there? Trying to win Champions League for PSG. Let's face it, the real football is in England and Spain. That's where it's being played now. He has conquered Italy. He has made a mark, being the first player since Diego Armando Maradona to lead Napoli to a title. So for Osimhen, he has played in France, he has played in Germany, he has played in Italy. The next logical destination is either England or Spain. If not, he will join the Saudi bandwagon to make some cool cash. But I think Luis Enrique may not last long on the job. He seems to have issues getting the players to play for him. He's always having conflicts. He's an emotional person, and as a coach, if you're not able to tame your emotions or get the players to play for you by getting into their heads, you already have a problem.
Okay, let's go to Leverkusen quickly. Bundesliga, we're looking at Bayern Leverkusen, 10 points clear of the German champions, talking about Bayern Munich. Xabi Alonso, is he the magic man? How long do you think this is just a flash in the pan?
Well, some would say you can't use one season to judge Alonso, but if you look at it, Leverkusen has not lost any game, both in Germany and in Europe. Now, that's something. And somehow, Bayern Munich has just not come to the party this season. We all thought that with the coming of Harry Kane, in fact, Bundesliga, and at least Harry Kane would have something to celebrate finally.
So can we say Harry Kane is a jinxed man?
Someone said the Harry curse has struck in the Bundesliga, and suddenly Leverkusen has found it. It's very interesting, but I feel for Harry Kane, he's 30, approaching 31. He couldn't make it in England. He thought, okay, Germany will be
the biggest team that has won it for
that wins it. Then suddenly Leverkusen just decide this is our year. Now that just spoils everything. But you know, for we Nigerians, we have a teller, we have Boniface, so we will definitely celebrate it. But at this point, 2 months to the end of the season, 10 points gap. Wow, it's not looking good for Bayern. I think Leverkusen has taken this one, except something unusual. There's an unprecedented collapse, which I don't think will happen. Alonso won't let it happen. So Leverkusen has done well. Alonso has put himself in the limelight and could be being considered for Liverpool and some other big teams in Europe.
But looking at Leverkusen, how long do you think they can sustain this momentum? Especially, we know that when a team comes to the a lot of players are going to be sought after, especially Bayern itself, who definitely...
That's their tradition.
And even for the coach, already we know that Bayern is already saying they want Alonso. Can Alonso ignore Bayern?
He can, because of Liverpool. He has a history with Liverpool. Remember, he was one of those that helped Liverpool win the Champions League in 2005, almost 20 years ago. And he left Liverpool
Would it be better for him to go to Liverpool than a Bayern that he's more certain he might win titles and get a shot at the Mannschaft team, talking about the German national team?
The thing for Alonso is if he wins with Leverkusen now, there will really be no challenge anymore. In fact, he would have already succeeded in breaking the almost 12, 13-year-old stranglehold that Bayern has had over the Bundesliga. But of course, you know, Anthony, once this season is over, Bayern, they are coming straight to Leverkusen and they are taking more than half of that team. That's what they do. They always do that to ensure that no team can go. But
challenge them.
It's only last season or 2 seasons ago we saw that for the first time Dortmund now said, no, we are not selling our good players to you. We rather sell them abroad. Perhaps if Leverkusen can stand their ground, keep Alonso for 1 season and insist that they will not allow any of their players go and instead add to what they have, then he might stay. But to go to Bayern, look, there's really no challenge there. I must tell you the truth, because whether you like it or we all know next season Bayern will be crowned champ. I'm saying it already. A year after, they will take that thing back. It's just almost like a birthright because they know the German arrangement very well. They know the terrain, and they just have the way they do it. They're not called Hollywood for nothing.
All right, let's take you to Spain quickly before we run out of time. It's Greenwood in this news this morning. Greenwood did score a spectacular goal against La Palma's draw in a 3-3 draw. But the idea is Greenwood. Do you think he has finally gotten off that tag of that issue he had in England? And do you see him really coming back to United? Because a lot of people have said Anthony not good enough. We'd rather have Greenwood come back into the team.
If I were Greenwood, I wouldn't go back to United. I'm not saying it because I don't like United. Of course, I don't like United. Yeah. But the fact is, he has proven himself. He has gone to Spain, playing with a middle or low team, and he has shown that he is a quality striker. And that goal,
Barcelona is looking for.
Absolutely. He should not go back to Manchester. Look, they didn't treat him right. I mean, for all the accusations that were made, the person in question is still with him. So why did Manchester United insist? Because they got bullied by some woke groups, all those woke groups that just cry wolf every time. At the end of the day, the lady in question said he's still with the man. So why would you keep antagonizing him and labeling him? So look, for me, he should stay in Getafe.
So you think Greenwood should stay?
He should stay in Getafe, run down the loan and run down his contract with Manchester United and go to another team. But most importantly, he should play for Jamaica. You know, he's yes, eligible for Jamaica. Yes. He shouldn't play for England because I think it's time some people need to prove a point. When you in your dark moments, you are supposed to get support, but you are labeled what you are not. Yes, you might have some truances and all that, but you are labeled. It's better he goes to play for Jamaica. Remember, the World Cup is in 2026. Jamaica has a chance of going to the World Cup. They are bringing all their players of English descent. So he should go there and prove a point. I even understand he even has a bit of Nigerian blood, but that would be stretching it too far, really. But for me, he shouldn't go to Manchester United. He has proven himself.
All right, that's how much time is going to allow us to take on today's edition of the program Talk Sport. Always very exciting. This debut is this is what the coaches will do. We started Dixon. Dixon will start him all over in the next game. That's what the coach will do for his excellent outing. I want to say thank you very much.
My pleasure to be here.
For joining me this morning and for your excellent analysis of all the big stories.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
All right, so that's how we're going to call it a wrap. And if you want to see Dixon again do magic with analysis, make sure you join us hopefully tomorrow. We'll be talking sports again. My name is Anthony Momodu, the King of Sports. Let's do this again tomorrow. Good morning.